Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about pets and chronic illness. Um, so these are a few things to consider, and I just want to preface this video by saying I do have a dog. It's a small Chihuahua poodle. You might have heard her sometimes in the background of some of my videos. She'll kind of just start barking randomly. But the one thing I want to say is that she wasn't my dog. So she was my sister's dog. And then my sister got another dog and sort of just left her here. And I took over responsibility of the dog. So I did not make the conscious decision to get a dog while being chronically ill. It was sort of imposed on me, and so I just took over because it's not the dog's fault. So I just want people to sort of know that before I get into this, because I know people are going to be like, well, if you're sick, you can't take care of a dog. Why do you have a dog? So I know animals can be very therapeutic, and in my own experience, she's been my constant companion. Even prior to my mom's retirement, it was just me and her in the house all day long. And so it's nice to kind of have the dog there, just to keep me company and to give me something to do. I'll take her out to the backyard. I watch her. I don't like taking her outside of the house without supervising her. So there is that responsibility there, but it's kind of nice to have that responsibility and to sort of be taking care of something else other than myself all the time. So yeah, they could be very therapeutic and relaxing and nice for companionship, and sometimes they're very cuddly. My dog's not very cuddly, but there are a lot of things to consider. And I thought of this because there was somebody on Twitter, like I said before, it always starts on Twitter, that was considering getting a pet, and he was asking for opinions. And as I was reading through them, I thought to myself, this would be a really good topic geared towards chronically ill people, because we have so many more things to consider. And one of those things is how difficult and how expensive it's going to be over time. So one of the relatively new experiences that I'm going through with my dog is aging. I have not had a dog this old before. She's 14 years old. I have never had a dog this old. We've had other dogs. They didn't last very long with us because my parents are not dog people, or my mom is not a dog person. And so if the dog started causing any issues, she would give it away or give it to someone else, which I know is horrible, but unfortunately that's how things go here. So we've never had a dog into their very senior years, and I'm starting to see that, it can be expensive and it can be difficult because you have to really take care of them. You have to watch them the same way that we take care of ourselves, with our medical issues. We have to constantly keep a tab on how the dog is doing. So I do things like I monitor her bowel movements. I know that's kind of gross, but she has had issues in the past with that. And I notice the difference, especially with a change of food and that kind of thing. So I monitor that. I monitor her appetite, have to monitor her weight. It does seem like she's kind of looking skinnier as she gets older. And so you're not only keeping a tab on your own health, but you're also making sure that you're on top of whatever is going on with your dog. Even if they're not visibly ill, when they get to be old, you kind of want to just be making sure that you're paying attention to any little changes, because it's a new experience for me, so I'm just kind of like, I guess, hyper vigilant about it. And it can get expensive. So a couple years ago, I started noticing that her eyes were really red and getting really swollen. I think it was during the winter when we were using the heater a lot more. And this is what I'm talking about with having to monitor small changes, because she wasn't exhibiting any signs of discomfort. She was still eating. She wasn't particularly bothered by whatever was going on with her face. I didn't notice her rubbing or crying or anything. but I could tell that something was wrong with her eyes. And I was like, her eyes are really swollen. They're really red. And sure enough, I took her to the vet, and they're like, she has an eye infection. And, you're going to need to get this and this and this. And I walked out of there with it, having spent at least $100. And then finding out that all they gave me was Neosporin for her eyes, which I could have gotten for $20 at the drugstore. But being that they're animals, you would take them to an animal doctor. You don't just self-diagnose and self-treat, kind of like we do with ourselves sometimes. So it can get very costly. The other thing I am starting to discover is the physical toll that it can take on us. And this is where it starts to get really messy, and where we start to have to make those tough decisions as to whether having the animal is actually benefiting us or hurting us, because it actually can physically take its toll on us. One of the new developments with my dog in the last year or so is waking up extra early in the morning and barking and barking and barking until I let her out. She's in a crate. She sleeps in a crate at night in a separate bedroom. I can't sleep with her in my bed. And if you're chronically ill, you know that you need to get your sleep as much as you possibly can. All of us suffer from some kind of sleep problem, whether it's insomnia, whether it's having difficulty falling asleep, or waking up early like my dog. So I can't have her in my bed. Even if she doesn't really bother me, I would prefer not to have her in my bed so that I can try and sleep as peacefully and soundly as possible, because I need to sleep. And that's doctor's orders. That's not something that I'm making up. I was told by my doctor, you need to sleep, and sleep as best as you can, as much as you possibly can, because it's not, this is that's when you start, your immune system regenerates and your body sort of calms, at least for a little bit. So that's why it's essential for us to sleep. And now we're having this issue where she's waking up early in the morning. It got to the point where it started at like 8 a.m. and then it went to 7 a.m. Then it went to 6 a.m. And then she's got all the way up to 4 a.m., which is when my dad leaves for work. And so I had to sort of retrain her back down to, like at least 7:30 or 8 in the morning. And things were okay for a little while, and then it started up again. And now it's been very, very consistent for months. And it's just waking up around, I think, like 7 or 7:30, barking, scratching, and wanting to be let out. I think part of it is that she needs to go to the restroom. But one thing that I notice is that if I let her sleep in my room at night, she doesn't do that when she wakes up in the morning. She literally won't move even after I get up. So I don't know if this is a sign of possibly dementia, or if it really is that she needs to go to the bathroom. She has not had any accidents in her cage or in the house. And again, this is a new experience for me, because I've never had a senior or like an elderly dog, because I guess that's what she would be considered. Also, picking up poop and keeping their areas clean, bathing them, that kind of thing. Fortunately, I have help with that because there are other people in this house, so I don't have to pick up poop. I don't bathe her. She will not allow me to bathe her whatsoever. The only person that can bathe her without getting scratched or bitten is my mom. My mom and the groomer. So all of those things are things to consider. Another thing, and I don't want to just, I'm talking about dogs because I have a dog. I know that there's people that have like birds and cats and that kind of thing. I've heard, I'm not very familiar with cats, but I've have a vague recollection that I know that pregnant women are not supposed to pick up kitty litter or something because it's toxic. So that's another thing to consider. Are these things that you need to maintain your animal? For example, the flea drops that we put on them, flea dips, flea baths, anything that contains a chemical, could that affect us adversely because we're already sick to begin with. And that's another thing to really consider. Um, are you sensitive to smells? I know that I really, really do not like the smell of like fish or fish tanks. Because I had a fish, I think, when I was a kid, and I was like, never again. This is just way too gross for me. And a lot of people with chronic conditions are very, very sensitive to smells. So that may also be a no go for a lot of people. So all of this is new. This is a brand new experience for me. I'm like I said, I'm lucky that there's other people in this house that manage some of the other things like cleaning up after her, but I'm sort of the primary caregiver in this case while also needing care for myself. So I'm kind of having to do two things at once. And as she's getting older, I'm starting to see the drawbacks. Granted, I did not choose, this was not my dog. I took over because, like I said, it's not her fault. And unfortunately, in a stable financial situation right now, that I can take care of her and I can provide for her, buy her special food because she's a senior, that kind of thing. I think for a lot of people, oh, and one more thing to consider is future living arrangements. If you are in a certain living situation and you know that it's not permanent, you might be moving to an apartment or getting roommates or whatever. That's another thing to consider if you're planning on getting a pet, because a lot of apartments do not allow dogs. I'm going through this right now. Even some houses that people rent do not permit dogs for whatever reason. So you really have to ask whether they permit specific, because they'll allow you to have like fish or cats or whatever, but for whatever reason, dogs seem to be kind of a deal breaker for a lot of rental places. Um, like I said, for some people, having a responsibility other than your own health and your own problems is a healthy distraction. It gives you a sense of purpose. It makes you feel like you're doing something for something else. You're taking care of this animal. A lot of us can't have children, so this is like a pretty good substitute, I guess, for having a child. It's an easier substitute, but at the same time, it still costs a lot of money, and it can still take a physical toll. That is my sort of surprise discovery with having an animal, is the physical toll, because I knew it was expensive. I've always known that it's expensive, and that was a big reason why my parents were not big on getting us pets, particularly dogs, when we were younger, because there's vet bills, there's vaccinations, there's accidents. And so money was always something that I was aware of. I just was not aware of the physical toll. Having to, peel myself out of bed at 7 in the morning. I know that that's not really super early for a lot of people, but, for me, it is kind of early, especially when I didn't go to sleep until like 2 or 3 a.m. the night before. Having to peel myself out of bed groggy to let the dog out because she's, losing her mind in her cage. And it scares you too. It scares you because you think, is she sick? Is she hurting? At this point, I know that nothing's wrong with her. She's just going through this phase in her life where maybe she's just now going to be waking up a lot earlier than before. So that is the unexpected toll that it takes on us, and that's something to consider. And I felt that this video would be very useful because it, for people that are considering getting a pet, because a lot of people who are sick are very lonely, especially if you live alone. You want companionship, or just something to distract you from your own aches and pains that you go through every day. And even in the beginning, it's cute if you have a puppy and that kind of thing. And puppies are another situation as well, because we've had this one since she was a baby, and house training and all of that. It's difficult in the beginning, it gets easy towards the middle, and then it gets difficult again in the end. And that's the part that I think would be helpful for me to talk about, because you never consider that. And of course, the eventual loss. I have lost a dog before, and it is incredibly painful. I imagine this is going to be even worse because we've had her a lot longer. And all of those things are things that you want to consider before getting a pet. it's not an easy thing. They are great. For the most part, she's pretty easy to deal with. She sleeps all day. She's very old now. But for people who are chronically ill, there are extra things that we need to think about before we take on a pet. Um, can you care for the pet? Because if you can't, I would not recommend that you get a pet. You know, we have neighbors that can't take care of their pets, and our neighbors are perfectly healthy and they're fine, and they can't take care of the pet. So that's led to a lot of phone calls to animal control, and reporting animal neglect, because I don't like seeing that either. I don't like when people neglect their pets. Um, and I know how difficult it is to care for an animal, and it bothers me to see other people neglect their pets. I don't understand why people would get one if they're not going to be home and they're not going to be able to take care of it. So I hope that this is helpful. I really think that this is going to be a great primer if you are on the market to get an animal. Consider how much care you have to give them. And every animal requires care, even fish. You know, even fish require care. I was surprised to learn when I was younger how much care they require and how fragile those things are, because they just seem to die over any little thing. So I hope this is helpful. I thought this was a very creative video to make. It seems kind of off topic, but it's been a big part of my life lately, and I hope that this helps someone in their decision making, um, before you get into something, before you get attached to an animal, because it's so easy to do that. So I hope this helps, and I will see you again very soon. Take care.